I learned early that I wasn't like the others. Not really. While other kids sat at the table waiting for dinner, I stood in the kitchen washing dishes. While cousins laughed in the living room, I was sent to fetch things, clean things, fix things. Be useful, Ethan, my father would say without looking at me. Useful, not loved, not protected, just useful. My name is Ethan Miller, and for as long as I can remember, my parents didn't raise me as a son. They raised me as their servant. I woke up every day before sunrise, not because I wanted to, because I had to. Floors to mop, breakfast to prepare, laundry to finish before school. If I was late, my mother's voice would slice through the house. Do you think this place runs itself? If I made a mistake, my father didn't shout. He did something worse. He smiled. That thin, humiliating smile that told everyone watching exactly where I stood. School was my only escape, not because I was popular. I wasn't. Not because life was easy there. It wasn't. But at school, I was. Invisible. And invisibility felt better than being owned. I studied quietly. I worked harder than anyone knew. I learned one thing very clearly. If you want to survive, never let them see your strength. So I didn't. At home, my sister was treated like royalty. New clothes, private tutoring, dreams encouraged. I was told to be realistic. When I asked about college, my father laughed. College is for people with futures, he said. You should learn how to serve properly. That night, I made a promise to myself. I wouldn't fight them. I wouldn't beg. I would leave. But leaving takes time when you have nothing. So I waited. I worked small jobs they didn't care about. Saved money they didn't know existed. Learned skills they never bothered to ask about. To them, I was still the boy who carried groceries and cleaned floors. To me, I was becoming someone else, quietly. Years passed. I grew older, quieter, more controlled. They mistook my silence for obedience. They were wrong. Silence was training. The invitation arrived on a gray afternoon. My sister's wedding. Expensive, elegant, loud. My mother tossed the envelope at me like an afterthought. You'll help with preparations, she said. And on the wedding day, stay out of the way. Don't embarrass us. I nodded. Of course I did. That was my role. The wedding venue was massive. Chandeliers, marble floors. Guests in suits that cost more than everything I owned. At least, everything they thought I owned. I wore a simple black suit. No one looked at me twice. Good. I was arranging chairs near the back when I felt it. That strange sensation. The feeling of being watched. I looked up. Across the hall stood an older man. Tall, calm, sharp eyes. The bride's father. He wasn't smiling. He was staring. Not past me. At me. His expression changed slowly from curiosity to confusion to something close to disbelief. He took a step forward, then another. My father noticed and frowned. Why is he looking at you? He hissed under his breath. I didn't answer, because I already knew the past I had buried, the life I had built in silence, the name I had stopped using. It had finally caught up with me, and the man walking toward me was about to say it out loud. He didn't rush toward me. Men like him never do. They move with certainty, because when they walk, they expect the world to make space. The bride's father stopped a few feet away and looked at me like he was solving a puzzle he hadn't seen in years. Then he spoke. Ethan? Miller? My stomach tightened. That name spoken like that, didn't belong in this room. Yes, I said quietly. His eyes widened, just slightly. Enough to tell me I wasn't wrong. I thought so, he said slowly. You look exactly the same, just older. My hands clenched at my sides. My father stepped in immediately. Excuse me, he said sharply, forcing a smile. This is our son. He's helping today. Helping. Always helping. The older man didn't even look at him. He kept his eyes on me. You won't remember me, he said. But I remember you. He paused, then added, Very well. The room felt smaller. My mother appeared beside my father, her smile tight. Is there a problem? She asked sweetly. The bride's father finally turned to them. No, he said calmly. Just surprised. Surprised? My father echoed. Yes, the man said. To see him here. Like this. Like this. He let the words hang. I believe we should talk, he said to me. Privately. My father stiffened. There's no need, he snapped. Ethan has responsibilities. The older man raised an eyebrow. Responsibilities, he repeated. Is that what you call it? Silence followed. Guests nearby pretended not to listen. They always do. We stepped aside near the balcony. The city lights glowed behind us. You disappeared, he said quietly. After that year, no calls, no trace. I didn't disappear, I replied. I was hidden. His jaw tightened. So it's true, he said. They kept you. I said nothing. I didn't need to. He exhaled slowly. You were the youngest intern I ever met, he said. Brilliant. Quiet. Relentless. In town. The word alone felt dangerous in this place. I recommended you, he continued. Scholarship. Overseas program. My chest burned. They never gave me the letter, I said. His eyes hardened. I assumed you declined. I almost laughed. Behind us, my parents were watching. I could feel it. My father's posture was rigid. My mother whispered urgently in his ear. For the first time, they didn't know what was being said, and it terrified them. Why are you here, Ethan? The man asked gently. I looked around the hall, the chandeliers, the guests, my parents pretending I didn't exist unless I was useful. I was invited, I said, as help. His expression darkened. You deserved better, he said quietly. That sentence hit harder than anything they'd ever said to me, because it came from someone who had once seen me before I learned to shrink. My father stormed over. That's enough, he snapped. We don't know what story he's been telling you. The bride's father turned to him fully now. I haven't heard a story, he said. I've recognized one. Recognized what? My father demanded. A talent you buried, the man replied calmly. My mother laughed nervously. You're mistaken, she said. Ethan has always been limited. The older man looked at her. Then explain this, he said, pulling out his phone. He showed her something, her face drained of color. I didn't look. I didn't need to, because whatever it was finally out of my hands. The man leaned closer to my parents. You raised him as labor, he said quietly. Not as a son. My father's mouth opened. No words came out. He turned back to me. After the ceremony, he said, You're sitting at the front table. My father snapped. He doesn't belong there. The man smiled politely, dangerously. He belongs wherever I say he does. And just like that, the roles began to reverse. The front table was a battlefield. White linen, crystal glasses, soft music playing underneath a tension thick enough to choke on. I stood there, unsure for the first time in years, not because I was afraid, but because I had never been allowed to stand there before. "Sit," the bride's father said calmly, pulling out a chair. My father's face tightened. "This is a family table," he said quickly. The older man didn't raise his voice. "So is he," he replied. And just like that, the argument ended, because men like my father thrive on authority and collapse when they realize they don't have it. I sat. My hands rested on the table, steady. Across from me, my parents avoided my eyes. Around us, whispers began. Who is he? Why is he here? Why does the bride's father seem to know him? My sister glanced at me once, confusion flickering across her face before she looked away. She had never needed to know who I was. The ceremony began. I didn't hear most of it. I could feel my parents unraveling in slow motion. My mother leaned close to my father, whispering urgently. "Did you know about this?" she hissed. He shook his head slightly. No. Fear crept into his eyes. I had seen that look before. Only once. The day he realized I had learned to stop asking for permission. After the vows, the bride's father stood to speak. The room fell silent instantly. "My daughter has always believed in honesty," he began, "in recognizing people for who they truly are." His eyes met mine for a brief second. I held his gaze. "I'd like to acknowledge someone tonight," he continued. "Someone who was underestimated and deeply wronged." The silence sharpened. My mother's fingers dug into her napkin. My father's jaw clenched. "This young man," he said, gesturing toward me, "was once among the most promising minds I encountered early in my career." Gasps rippled through the room. My parents froze. He was disciplined, brilliant, invisible by choice. I swallowed. "He vanished before he could rise," the man continued. "And tonight I finally understand why." All eyes turned toward my parents, not accusing, questioning. My father stood abruptly. "That's enough," he snapped. "This is inappropriate." The bride's father turned slowly. "No," he said evenly. "What's inappropriate is erasing potential." My father opened his mouth, then closed it, because for the first time he realized he wasn't the most powerful man in the room. After the speech, guests approached me, carefully, respectfully, some curious, some impressed, some apologetic. "I had no idea," one of my father's colleagues whispered. Neither did they. That was the point. My mother cornered me near the hallway. "What did you tell him?" she demanded under her breath. I looked at her calmly. "Nothing," I said. He remembered. Her eyes searched my face. For anger, for revenge, for weakness. She found none. "You embarrassed us," she whispered. I leaned closer. "You did that yourselves." The bride's father joined us moments later. "Ethan," he said, "I hope you'll consider coming by my office next week." My father snapped his head toward us. "Office?" he repeated. "Yes," the man replied. "We have a great deal to discuss." "About what?" my father demanded. The older man smiled politely. "About the future," he said. "The one you kept him from." That was when panic set in. Not anger, not pride, fear, because my parents suddenly understood something terrifying. They had controlled my past. but they had no claim over my future. Later that night, as guests danced and laughed, my father pulled me aside. "You think this changes anything?" he hissed. I met his eyes. "It already has." He stared at me. For the first time in his life, he didn't know what to say. I returned to the table, the one they never let me sit at. And as I sat there calm, composed, unafraid, I realized something important. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was exposure. And exposure was only the beginning. The music got louder after dinner. Laughter filled the hall. Glasses clinked. People relaxed. My parents didn't. They sat stiff, eyes darting, every smile forced. The kind of smiles people wear when they know something is slipping out of their hands and there's nothing left to grip. I watched them from across the room, not with anger, but with clarity. They weren't afraid of losing me. They were afraid of losing the story they had written about me. The bride's father found me near the balcony again. "Walk with me," he said. We moved through the crowd like it parted naturally. Respect does that. People sense it even before they understand why. "I reviewed your old files," he said quietly. "Your projects, your evaluations." I nodded. They were never meant to stay buried. "No," he agreed. "And neither were you." He stopped and turned to me fully. "Do they know who you became?" he asked. I didn't hesitate. "No." He studied my face. "Do you want them to?" I looked back at the hall at my parents laughing too loudly with guests who were no longer impressed. "Yes," I said. "But not from me." He smiled slightly. "Good," he said, "because truth lands harder when it arrives on its own." The moment came unexpectedly. A group of my father's old associates approached our table, men who used to nod at him with respect. One of them looked at me and asked, "So, Ethan, what do you do?" The question hung there. My father tensed. I opened my mouth, but the bride's father spoke first. "He runs a firm," he said calmly. "Consulting, private, very selective clients." My mother's glass froze halfway to her lips. "A firm?" my father repeated. "Yes," the man continued. "One that recently advised on a merger your company failed to secure." Silence. Pure, sharp, devastating silence. My father blinked. That was you?" he asked, disbelief cracking his voice. I met his eyes. Yes, the control snapped right there. Not loudly, internally. My mother laughed weakly. "This isn't funny." "No," I said calmly. "It isn't." Guests shifted. Some leaned in. Others pretended not to listen badly. "You lied to us," my father said. I tilted my head slightly. "No," I replied. "You never asked." He stood abruptly. "This is my son," he announced too loudly. "Whatever success he has, it's because of us." The bride's father stood too. "Is it?" he asked quietly. Every eye turned. "You raised him as labor," he continued evenly. "You discouraged his education. You blocked his opportunities." My mother's voice shook. "We did what was best." "For whom?" the man asked. No answer. I finally spoke, not raised, not angry, measured. "You taught me discipline," I said. "You taught me endurance. You taught me how to survive being unseen." I paused. "But everything I became, I built in silence, away from you." My father's face flushed red. "You owe us," he snapped. I shook my head slowly. "No," I said. "I survived you." That sentence ended it. The room felt different after that, like gravity had shifted. People looked at my parents the way they had once looked at me, carefully, cautiously, reassessing. Status doesn't disappear, it evaporates. Later, my mother found me alone near the exit. Her voice was small. "Why didn't you tell us?" she asked. I looked at her, not cruelly, not kindly. "Because you never listened," I said. She reached out, then stopped. For the first time, she didn't know her place in my life. And neither did I. The bride's father joined us one last time that night. "Ethan," he said, "my offer stands. Come see me Monday." I nodded. "I will." He turned to my parents. "You should be proud," he said politely. "Politeness can be brutal." As the night ended, I walked out alone. No one stopped me. No one ordered me. No one followed. For the first time, I wasn't leaving as help. I was leaving as myself. And behind me, my parents stood in a room full of people, realizing they no longer had a servant, and they never truly had a son. The hall emptied slowly. Music faded. Laughter thinned into echoes. Chairs scraped the floor as guests drifted toward their cars, carrying stories they would retell with lowered voices and raised eyebrows. I stayed, not because I owed anyone anything, but because I wanted to feel the end of it. My parents sat alone at the table they once ruled. No audience, no authority, no script left to perform. My father stared at his hands as if they'd betrayed him. My mother kept smoothing her dress, the way people do when they don't know what else to hold together. I didn't feel triumph. I felt release. The bride's father found me near the exit again. "You handled that with restraint," he said. "Most people would have burned the room." I shook my head. "Fire leaves ash," I replied. "I wanted space." He smiled. "Come Monday. We'll talk about what's next." I nodded. We shook hands, not as mentor and student, but as equals. That mattered. I walked outside. Night air cooled my face. City lights hummed softly, indifferent to the drama they'd just witnessed. Behind me, my parents followed. Slow, hesitant. "Ethan," my mother said. I stopped, but I didn't turn. "We didn't know," she continued, "about your work, your life. I faced them then." "You knew everything you wanted to know," I said calmly. "Everything that kept you comfortable." My father swallowed. "You think this makes you better than us?" I considered the question. "No," I answered. "It makes me free." He stepped closer, voice cracking. "You wouldn't be anything without us." I met his eyes steady, unafraid. "That's the last lie you get to tell about me," I said. Silence followed.